Welcome to White Paper Podcasts, where our hosts Heather and Andre discuss an infinite variety of published white papers and scientific studies, making them easy to understand through an informative and entertaining format. Today, Heather and Andre discuss simple and proven methods for doing a liver detox. This podcast lasts approximately 15 minutes.
Welcome to our deep dive on liver detoxification. I have to admit, the idea of drinking olive oil to feel better sounds a little out there to me,
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical wellness advice.
Right. But then I heard this story about an 85-year-old woman, Suzanne, who had tried everything for her health problems. Doctors were stumped. And then she tries this old folk remedy with olive oil, and suddenly she's feeling better.
Wow. That's pretty remarkable.
It really is. So that's what we're diving into today, this whole world of liver detoxification. We're talking traditional wisdom, modern science, maybe even debunking some myths along the way. What do you think?
It's like a fascinating area to explore. I think what often gets lost in all the talk about detox is just how intricate and important the liver's role really is.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not just some simple filter, right?
Definitely not. It's more like a highly sophisticated processing plant, constantly working.
That's a great way to put it. It's like this nonstop factory processing everything we eat, drink, the medications we take, environmental toxins. It's a lot.
Absolutely. And that's why supporting its natural processes is so crucial.
So when we talk about liver detoxification, are we talking about like giving the liver a break, or is it more about, helping those natural processes work even better?
It's more about optimizing those processes, I'd say. See, the liver has this amazing two-phase detoxification system.
Okay, so walk us through this two-phase system.
So in phase one, the liver neutralizes toxins, makes them less harmful. And this is actually where a lot of detox supplements tend to focus solely on.
Really? So they're missing part of the picture.
Exactly, because there's phase two, which is just as important.
What happens in phase two then?
This is where the liver converts those neutralized toxins into a form that can be easily, let's say, escorted out of the body, like attaching a shipping label.
Okay, that's a great analogy.
Right. So you need both phases working well for a truly optimized liver.
So it's not just about neutralizing, it's about making sure those toxins are actually leaving the building.
Exactly.
Okay, so we can't talk about the liver without addressing, gallstones.
Oh, yes, gallstones.
They always seem to be part of this conversation around liver health. And to be honest, the whole idea of passing stones, a little intense?
It's definitely a topic that gets people talking, or maybe not talking, if you know what I mean. And there are a lot of misconceptions out there about them. Well, for one, many people think gallstones are always these hard, rock-like things, and that they only exist in the gallbladder.
Right.
But that's not always the case. Lots of times, gallstones are actually soft cholesterol deposits, almost sludgy.
Oh, I see. So that's where some of the skepticism around liver cleanses comes in.
Exactly.
Because if you have these softer deposits, they might not show up on a scan, so some doctors might question if they're even real.
Precisely. And then the whole idea of liver cleanse gets dismissed as hype.
So just because something doesn't show up on a test doesn't mean it's not there.
Exactly. It might just mean we need different ways of looking for it.
So let's talk about those different ways of looking specifically. The liver cleanse itself. I've read about these, and I have to be honest, drinking large amounts of extra virgin olive oil, of all things, seems a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can see why you'd think that. It does seem a bit strange.
Like, don't we usually think of fats as needing to be detoxified by the liver, not helping it detoxify?
Right. But here's the thing. When it comes to liver cleanses, the type of oil really matters.
So it has to be extra virgin olive oil. Why is that?
Yeah, it has to be extra virgin because it has certain properties that, say, regular olive oil just doesn't.
Okay, what kind of properties?
Well, some people believe that extra virgin olive oil actually stimulates the gallbladder and bile flow.
Interesting. So it's about getting things moving, so to speak.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, so then what about the other part of the cleanse, the Epsom salts? That's the part that always,
Let's just say it's not the most pleasant part of the cleanse, but there is a reason why it's included.
So what's the science behind it?
Well, Epsom salts are known for relaxing muscles, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thinking is when you consume Epsom salts during a cleanse, they actually relax and dilate your bile ducts.
Which is important because
It allows for easier flow, potentially helps those stones or softer deposits to pass through more comfortably.
So it's about making the whole passing process less intense.
Exactly. Less painful, let's say. And that's a big concern for a lot of people.
Makes sense. And sometimes people include apple juice in a liver cleanse, too. Why is that?
Yeah, apple juice is thought to soften the gallstones. Might be because of that malic acid found in apples. Not entirely sure, to be honest.
Interesting. So it's like prepping everything for a smooth exit.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the olive oil getting the bile flowing, Epsom salts relaxing those ducts, and apple juice softening things up. Sounds like a plan, but realistically, there are a lot of people who are skeptical of this whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Some doctors even call liver cleanses a hoax. So how do you address that kind of criticism? What do you say to the skeptics?
Well, it's true that liver cleanses aren't universally accepted.
Mm.
And it's important to acknowledge those concerns. I think one of the biggest criticisms is that there aren't a lot of large-scale clinical trials on them.
Oh, that makes sense.
So while there is plenty of anecdotal evidence, people's personal experiences and traditions going back centuries,
Right.
and even some smaller studies that suggest liver cleanses might be beneficial, we do need more rigorous scientific research to really know for sure how well they work.
So it's good to be a little cautious.
Absolutely.
What about the safety aspect? Are there any risks to doing a liver cleanse, especially if someone has other health issues already?
That's a really important question, and as you can imagine, there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. But generally, for healthy individuals, when done correctly, liver cleanses are considered to be relatively safe.
Okay.
However, for anyone with certain conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or any existing issues with their liver or gallbladder,
It's best to talk to a doctor first.
absolutely, it's essential.
Yeah.
A healthcare professional can help determine if a cleanse is appropriate and advise on any modifications that might be necessary.
So maybe a modified cleanse with a smaller amount of olive oil, for example.
Exactly. Or a different approach altogether. It really depends on the individual.
Now, there's this whole other criticism out there that those past stones that people see aren't really stones, they're just saponified olive oil. Is there any truth to that?
Well, that's one of those myths that's pretty easy to debunk, actually.
Okay, how so?
Because olive oil has a much lower melting point than cholesterol does. And those stones, they've been analyzed, and they're mainly cholesterol, not saponified oil.
So what about those people who try a liver cleanse and don't see these, dramatic results?
Right.
What if they don't have that flushing experience? Does that mean it didn't work?
Not at all. It's not always a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's different. For some people, maybe their liver and gallbladder were relatively clear to begin with.
Ah, so they weren't as congested in the first place.
Exactly. Or it could be that the cleanse is working more gradually.
Ah,
We don't all process things at the same speed.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like with any kind of detox, some people have these really intense reactions, and for others, it's much more subtle.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point to remember. A liver cleanse isn't some magic bullet. It's not a one-time fix-all for everything.
Right.
It's more about, giving your liver some extra support, helping it function at its best.
Yeah, like giving it a little tune-up.
Exactly.
Which brings me back to Suzanne, the woman we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, with the olive oil.
Right. It sounds like she was dealing with way more than just gallstones, chronic pain, digestive problems, the works, and doctors couldn't figure it out. They were stumped. And then a friend of hers suggests this thing, drinking a large dose of olive oil. It does sound a little out there, doesn't it?
It does. It's like something you'd read in an old folk medicine book.
Right. And the crazy thing is, she wakes up the next day feeling amazingly better. Her pain was reduced, her digestion was improved. It's like this huge turning point for her.
Wow. It's remarkable how these traditional remedies can sometimes, hold up.
Totally. I think it goes back to what we were discussing earlier about traditional wisdom.
Absolutely.
Sometimes those old practices, those folk remedies, they actually work. They had it figured out way back when.
It's true. For centuries, people have been using food as medicine. And while it's always important to be cautious, and consult with healthcare professionals, I think there's a lot to be said for exploring those traditional approaches.
It's like we're rediscovering this whole connection between, what we put into our bodies and how we actually feel. It's not just about calories and all that. It's about really nourishing ourselves at a deeper level.
Exactly. And the liver plays such a central role in that whole nourishment process.
Speaking of nourishment, I'm curious about the long-term benefits of having a healthier liver. We've talked about how it can improve digestion, reduce allergies, maybe even impact things like blood sugar and cholesterol levels. It's incredible how interconnected it all is.
It really is. When your liver is functioning well, it's like this domino effect, you know. It positively influences so many other systems in the body.
I like that, the domino effect. So let's break it down a bit. First up, digestion. How does a healthier liver actually translate into better digestion?
Well, the liver is responsible for producing bile, and bile is crucial for breaking down fats, right? So when the liver is congested or sluggish, bile flow can get backed up, and that can lead to digestive problems, discomfort, all that fun stuff.
Right. Bloating, gas, indigestion.
Exactly. So by supporting healthy bile flow, you're essentially supporting healthy digestion.
Okay, that totally makes sense. What about the connection between liver health and allergies? I've heard that a really overworked liver can actually contribute to those sensitivities, those allergic reactions.
Yeah, that's a theory that's gaining more and more attention. The idea is that when your liver is constantly bombarded with toxins from all these different sources, the environment, processed foods, whatever it might be, it can create a state of, let's say, systemic inflammation in the body.
Okay.
And that inflammation, in turn, can make you more sensitive, more reactive to things that might not have bothered you before, like certain foods or pollen or dust.
So it's like your whole system is on high alert.
Exactly. And your liver, poor thing, is just trying to keep up with all the detoxification demands.
So a happier liver could equal a happier immune system.
Potentially, yes. It's about restoring balance, and the liver is a key player in maintaining that balance.
So important. Okay, what about blood sugar and cholesterol? Those are two biggies that a lot of people struggle with these days. How does liver health tie into those?
Well, let's start with blood sugar. The liver is kind of like the body's glucose manager, right? It converts glucose into glycogen and stores it. And then, when your body needs more energy, it releases that stored glucose back into the bloodstream.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize it played such an active role in blood sugar.
It does. And so it stands to reason that a healthier liver is going to be much better equipped to manage those processes effectively. And that could potentially lead to more stable blood sugar levels overall.
So it's not just about the pancreas and insulin.
Right. The liver is a key player in the whole blood sugar balancing act.
Fascinating. What about cholesterol?
Okay, so here's the thing about cholesterol. A lot of people don't realize that the liver is actually responsible for producing it.
Right.
Yeah. But here's the other side of the coin. The liver also plays a role in removing excess cholesterol from the body. So it's this delicate balancing act.
So a healthier liver equals better cholesterol management.
Precisely. And that's why supporting liver health is so important for overall well-being. It's not just about this one organ in isolation. It's about how that one organ influences the entire system.
Wow, talk about a multitasker. The liver is incredible. It's amazing how one organ can have such a huge impact on, well, everything.
It really is. And it makes sense when you think about it, because the liver is involved in so many different processes in the body. Digestion, energy, hormones, detoxification, you name it.
It's like the behind-the-scenes maestro, making sure everything runs smoothly.
I love that analogy, the maestro of the body. So true.
So as we wrap up our deep dive on liver detoxification, what are some key takeaways you hope our listeners will remember?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to remember that liver health is part of a holistic picture, right?
Right.
It's not just about one organ in isolation. It's about how everything in the body is interconnected.
The domino effect.
Exactly. And then, when it comes to things like liver cleanses, those traditional practices, it's great to be curious.
Yeah.
To explore those options.
Definitely.
But it's always best to approach them with a balanced perspective.
Okay, so being cautious.
Yes. And always, always talk to your doctor or healthcare provider first. They can help you figure out if a cleanse is right for you and, what the best approach might be for your individual needs.
So important. It's about finding what works for you, not just following some generic advice.
Yeah.
And maybe even more important than doing a cleanse is just, making those lifestyle changes that support your liver in the long run.
Absolutely. Things like eating a healthy diet, managing stress, getting enough sleep. Those are the real foundations of liver health.
It's about giving your body the support it needs day in and day out.
Exactly.
And it's so easy to get caught up in those quick fixes, those magic solutions.
Right.
But true health, it really is a journey. It's about those small, consistent steps you take over time.
Couldn't agree more. It's an ongoing process of learning and adapting.
Exactly. Well said. Well, I want to circle back to Suzanne one last time before we go.
It's the 85-year-old woman.
Yes. Her story was really what sparked this whole deep dive. Remember, she had tried everything for her health issues, and nothing seemed to work. Doctors were baffled. And then she tries the simple folk remedy with olive oil, and suddenly she's feeling better. It makes you think, right?
It really does. It reminds us that there's still so much we don't know, you know?
Right.
And that sometimes those unexpected approaches can have really surprising results.
It's like that saying, the only constant is change, or something like that. We have to be open to new information, new possibilities.
I love that.
So to all our listeners out there, if something in this deep dive sparked your curiosity, if something resonated with you, don't let that spark fade away.
Keep asking questions.
Keep exploring, keep listening to your own inner wisdom. You are your own best advocate.
So well said.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about how your amazing body works, the better equipped you'll be to make those informed choices about your health and well-being. And on that note, until next time, happy exploring, everyone.